So this is my peacock slide here. This is just a variety of different tools involved around social media. It looks very overwhelming, no question. I am certainly not suggesting that anybody in this room attempt to do all of that. I don't know that anybody would ever be able to be successful doing that, but I think it is important that as you look, if you do decide to explore social media, to look at it and decide, what mix of tools may be appropriate for your company. Where are your customers and your prospects communicating? Where are they hanging out? And then you choose those tools that allow you to get close to your prospects based on where they may be. So where do we start? What tactics do we use? What tools do we use? How much time do we invest? I mentioned this briefly, but I'll say it again. The decision as far as the investment in social media is not really necessarily a dollars and cents investment question. It can be if you do some things involving search. There are a couple of different ways that you can go. We've talked about a little bit of that. I have with some of you in the past. So there are some ways you can spend the money, but the primary investment that you're going to make is an investment of time. And so as you're going through the process, as you're listening and you're participating and you're generating buzz and you're sharing content and you're kind of kicking some of these communities around, you're trying to decide which of these makes sense for your company. You also need to kind of have that conversation with yourself about how much time am I willing to commit. Suggestions by people in the industry would be that it's going to take you at least about 5 hours a week, even if you just get involved and you just listen. And you just kind of get in on the very early edges and you start trying to keep your ear to the ground and see what's going on out there. It's probably going to take you 5 hours at least to do that. Maybe as much as 20 hours a week if you really get involved as you go down that timeline a little bit. But again, that is a block of time that doesn't have to be done by one person. As we saw on the slide before, a couple slides ago, it could be split up between different people in your company. But again, the consideration is what kind of commitment, if you get to that point, are you willing to make? Because the last thing you want to do is get involved in a community and then kind of do it halfway, because that will reflect poorly on your company. All right, so some social media benefits, not just to resellers, but certainly for resellers. Allows you to join the conversation with your customers and your prospects and expand that ecosystem of people who can participate in the world that you're living in. You can gain valuable information from partners and customers, prospects, certainly. Here's the one I think is probably the most important from a manufacturer and a solution provider standpoint, is you can improve channel programs by way of the feedback. Manufacturers can improve channel programs by listening maybe a little bit better to some of these communities, and certainly resellers can help them do that by participating and talking. I think a lot of times channel programs are developed in a little bit of a bubble, or maybe based on what may have worked a year ago or at some point in the past, and it would probably serve us all well to really talk a little bit more, as Jeff mentioned, talk more regularly and more frequently. This gives you a method and a mechanism to make that happen. And then certainly building closer partnerships and empowering yourself and engaging with your particular partners are key benefits as well. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this slide, but I did just want to mention, kind of the 3 steps of social media. You engage, you educate, and you sell. Listening is key on that first part, the engagement part. If you do nothing else well, be a good listener. Get in there and just listen. Understand what people in your community that have similar business interests, what it is that they want to talk about. You could begin to build a content library. If you go to LinkedIn and you go into their group section, there are a variety of existing channel groups today that are talking about the technologies and the solutions that you guys sell today. There are people out there right now talking about things that we could all learn from. And so LinkedIn is a great way to do that. Certainly being able to monitor is a key too, and being a good listener. From an education standpoint, you don't want to be boring. You don't want to be like the professor at Fast Times at Ridgemont High there, right? Young Ben Stein. You want to be interesting. You want to have things like ebooks and flash applications and webinars, things that are interesting that you can link back to. You want to be specific and talk about things that are interesting to the people who are in that community. You may or may not want to blog. Again, that's something that you want to kind of think about and figure out for yourself a little bit. But it gives you a great opportunity, too, to hang out with real influential people, people that are making a difference out there and shaking things up and talking about things that are very interesting. You can hang out and you can actually talk to those people and be a part of that little community. And I know some of you have seen Tommy Boy, right? You don't want to be a Tommy Boy closer. You don't want to be the hardcore closer out there. There are clues when you're searching out there. You can figure out where people are in the buying cycle. Just by searching on keywords, you can understand very clearly, is somebody just kind of kicking tires, or are they really interested in talking to somebody about helping them with a solution right now? And then you can kind of gauge your response and the things that you do based on what you're hearing from those clues. And then as you offer your 2 cents, just one final suggestion there would be, if you find somebody that is looking for some true help, is to take it offline. You don't want to have those kind of conversations inside the community. At some point, you want to pick up the phone or shoot that particular person an email. What happens in Vegas, Eric referenced it in his video as well. I call it the 4 walls theory. We're all living in fish bowls now thanks to social media, right? All the walls of our company are essentially glass. There was a prediction that by 2010, 35% of all marketing is going to be done inside user groups, inside of communities, inside of social media. And that is not traditional marketing. That's not necessarily you having a marketing campaign by way of social media. That means your customers and your partners talking about your company online, and you can't do anything about it. So we've all got glass walls now, and I think it's just very important that every single one of us, because of the proliferation of social media, we have to continuously evaluate our company and ask ourselves, are we doing the right things inside? Because if you're not, it's gonna come out. It's gonna be found out. People are gonna talk about it, whether it's your employees or whether it's not the customers that you're doing business with. So how you run your business essentially becomes your marketing campaign, and it's increasing every year to the point that I would imagine in the next 5 to 10 years, it may be as much as 50% of the effective communication about your company is not gonna come from you. I've shown this slide to some of you before. I think it's a great slide. It's fairly recent, but nevertheless, it still suggests that 80% of end users say that they found their solution provider. And that is just a stunning statistic and a complete reversal from, say, 15 to 20 years ago, when virtually, unless they went to the yellow pages, virtually no end user found their supplier. Most people were out there hunting for leads. They're out there knocking on doors. And so this thing has totally shifted, and we've become a business climate where users are seeking out their provider as opposed to the other way around. All right, I promised you a quick slide on ROI. The key here, I think, is to focus on engagement metrics as opposed to just raw numbers. The tendency that we all have is when you become part of the social media world, or the tendency that you'll find is to say, I've got 5,000 followers on Twitter, so I must be doing something right. I have this many people paying attention to what I'm doing on Facebook or Twitter or whatever the case may be. But what you really want to look at is, do people care about what you're saying? Not how many people are out there. So how many retweets? That's when you send somebody a message and they send it to somebody else because they think it's that important. They think it's that valuable. How many replies? How many wall comments? How many recommendations are you getting from people in the community? How many best answers are you getting? When those things are happening, then you're being successful. And so you really don't want to look at the raw numbers. Those things lead to improved and new relationships and hopefully prospects that become customers. If nothing else works, like these guys, just hang the thing upside down on the wall and go home, right? Love that cartoon. These guys have the right attitude. Okay. Jeff referenced the Click. What the Click is a group of people who are here at the conference. And this is actually not even all of them. There are a few more. And they have on those little t-shirts that are special Click t-shirts. And their goal here is, and they'll be here at all the networking events, they'll be here at the expo this afternoon, but they'll be at everything that we do, is to kind of be your social media experts. They're really good at it. They're a lot better at it than I am. And they can help you answer, they can help you with anything any kind of need that you have. Any questions that you want answered, they can help you do it. If you want to sign your company up on a Twitter account or a LinkedIn account, they can do that for you while you're right here. Jeff talked about videos. Mark's going to bring you a little bit more up to speed on that here in just a second. But pretty much any kind of social media question that you have, these folks are here to help you. So feel free to approach them. They'll have a booth in the expo, but they'll also be kind of roaming around and able to help you as well. There are going to be some really neat contests as well. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew about the Click. And that is it. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.